Hello, everyone. Welcome to our virtual meetup tonight. We are so excited to dive into short-term rentals with you. To get us started, if you could please throw in the chat just where you are joining us in from, what your current investment portfolio may look like, just so we can all get to know each other. My name is Diana. I am the community manager on the Addicted to ROI team, and we are so excited to have you here tonight. I typically live in Hawaii, but right now I am in Massachusetts, and I actually just closed on my very first property out of state in Tennessee. So that's super exciting. And then tonight we have with us Cody, Kazie Green, and Rob Terpilowski, and I will let them get their introductions started as well. Thank you all for joining us tonight.
Thanks, Diana. I'm Cody Touchette. I will go first. A lot of familiar names and faces on the Zoom meeting, so good to see you guys. And if I haven't met you, nice to meet you in person, or I guess semi in person, Zoom person. So I'm Cody Touchette. I work at Caliber Home Loans. I've been working with Jen and the group for, gosh, over 10 years now. Personally, I'm a loan officer by day and investor by all the rest of the time. I've got many different investments in a bunch of different locations: Oklahoma, Tennessee, Minnesota, Idaho. I'm in contract on a short-term rental in Scottsdale, Arizona, and I own a short-term rental in Ronald, Washington that I bought earlier this year. Total of about 150 doors right now. We're selling a couple, or selling more than a couple. I think shortly we'll be in contract to sell 55 units, and so then I'll have to level those up and figure out where we go next with the proceeds from those sales. I love working with investors, helping them come up with creative financing solutions, and really excited about the possibilities and the possibilities with short-term rentals. So I'm excited to share my information and glean some information from the other folks on the call.
I'll go next. I'm Kazie Green, and I am well, probably more of a mom right now during the day and a real estate agent as well. I've been with Remax Northwest here in Seattle. I'm in Seattle, or Snohomish for more local people. I think I'm starting my 18th year. So I've been doing real estate for a really long time and have more recently jumped into the investment side of things. Cody's been kicking me in the pants for years and years to try to get going on this. So last year we dove in pretty deep and pulled out some money out of one of our rentals here in Washington and jumped over to Milwaukee and picked up 12 doors in Milwaukee, and got a wild hair after one trip to Arizona, our one and only trip ever to Arizona, and picked up a short-term rental there. And that's been up and live for only a little over a month, and we're seeing some crazy success with it, which is really, really exciting. We bought it more of a vacation spot to go to for our family, and it's turning into no openings for us to go down. We're having a struggle finding time to where we can actually go. So that's pretty neat. But yeah, we've done Milwaukee now and Arizona, and we're looking to expand in other markets, pull some money from a couple of our rentals here and keep going with that. But I'm pretty fresh with the short-term rentals, so that's where I'm at right now.
All right, I guess that leaves me. Am I up on the screen? I can't see myself, so I have no idea if I'm actually being heard or not. But my name is Rob Terpilowski. I am a full-time real estate investor as of last year. My background's in software engineering. I was a software architect for about 15 years for a company here in Seattle, and been doing real estate on the side since about 2012, and then full-time since March of last year. So I primarily do, actually I do pretty much everything. So I've done BRRRRs, I've done got a couple short-term rentals now. I've done flips. I do a lot of wholesaling, owner financing, distressed mortgages. So I've kind of tried my hand at a bit of every possible strategy that's out there. But primarily I've been doing buy and holds in Oklahoma and Indianapolis. And then I've gotten to my first 2 short-term rentals last year there in Indianapolis as well. So and then total deals over the last few years, about 100 between flips and wholesaling and rentals. So I love to talk about real estate and would be happy to answer anybody's questions that they may have regarding any of those specific subtopics.
Again, thank you everyone for joining us tonight. We are talking all about short-term rentals, and these are just a few of our inner circle members that have short-term rentals. If you have any questions, feel free to use the raise hand function and I'll bring you up on the screen, or you can also throw your question into the chat. So I do see that Ina had a question for Cody and Kazie. What management company do you use in Wisconsin?
Smart Asset is who I use. I think Kazie, you're still with Smart Asset, yes?
Yeah, we're still with Smart Asset. It's been a bumpy road with Smart Asset.
True. Which I think generally it's always can be a little bumpy when you get started with somebody, but it's continued to be bumpy longer than I would have hoped. I think same thing for Kazie. I feel like I'm kind of settling in now, but it's been tough.
Yeah, agree, 100%. We're settling in. Found Tamika on the management side for the maintenance side, and she's been great. So I'm gonna have to excuse myself and go get some tea or something for my throat. So I'll be right back.
Okay, so let's dive into short-term rentals. Cody, will you kick us off? How did you get started in the short-term rental market?
Yeah, well, so and obviously I work with a lot of clients, and a ton of my clients had been looking for either second homes specifically designed to rent the heck out of them and make maximum dollars, or I've got several clients that have bought some second homes that just are for their own use, and then some folks that are kind of in the middle, and that's kind of where I landed with the first one that I bought. Was I've wanted a mountain cabin for a long time, and so if you're local, my place is just outside of Suncadia. If you're not, then that's like a Sun River or something like that, where it's a really big planned development with a lot of really nice homes in it. But they have a ton of rules. And so I didn't want all the rules. I like motorized vehicles and I wanted to be able to do whatever I wanted. And the Suncadia rules are quite significant. So my place is maybe 10 minutes outside of Suncadia, so we can still go visit the winery and do all the fancy schmancy stuff inside of Suncadia, but I can hop on a dirt bike and scream out of my driveway and nobody's going to yell at me, right? So as far as how I found that, like I had been looking over there for years, right? And I had watched that area just absolutely explode. It got really hammered in the downturn, right? 2006, 7, 8, 9 was really tough for Suncadia owners. And that development went through at least another owner, I believe, that like actually finished it out. That said, it's a great area. It has really good occupancy. Right now it's blanketed with about 6 feet of snow. We were over there and we got 5 to 6 feet of snow in a weekend, like in 3-4 days. So I knew I always wanted a mountain cabin. That was something I was interested in. And then as I saw more and more of our clients be able to rent their second homes when they weren't there, it made sense to me, like, okay, I can make this fly to have a, mine, it's not a small place. It's 3,800 square feet. It sleeps 16. So when I'm not there, usually there's a big group of people that are there and they're paying $1,000 a night. Right. And so on the summer months, when I don't plan to be there in the summer, because that's the 3 months out of the year that it's actually sunny in Seattle where I live. And so I want to be at home, right? I want to enjoy the sunshine here. And so I rented the heck out of it over the summer, and we got between 2.5 and 3 times the payment each of the 3 major summer months, right? June, July, and August. And then September was pretty good. And then October, next to nothing, right? Because there's no snow, there's no sun. It's just windy and rainy and gross, just like it is here. So, but then the snow started kicking in, the holidays kicked in. Same way with Kazie, like I was thinking about going over there for Christmas, boom, it was gone. I was thinking about going over there for New Year's, and boom, it was gone. But you know, when the Christmas week went for $6,000, so I was like, well, shoot, I can go wherever I want for Christmas now, because the second home just paid for whatever vacation I wanted. And so we ended up staying home. So we just made $6,000. But the management over there, I'm a busy guy, and I'm hands off, where, you know, I think Kazie's got a little different take, and I'm not sure about Rob, but for me, I need to be hands off. I just want to, like, I'm a guest. When I show up there, it's clean. The beds are made. When I leave, I strip the sheets and put the dishes in the dishwasher just like any other guest, and I walk out. And then when I go back, it's clean and fancy again, right? So for me, we pay 32% for what they do, 2% for credit card processing, blah, 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 and 30% to make sure that they're advertising it, filling it up, have cleaners, have handymen, take care of all the stuff as it comes up. And I just get to really have a, you know, pretty well taken care of second home that most of the time I'm getting my payment paid for, or in the big months, I'm getting double or triple my payment.
That's awesome. Rob, how did you get started with your short-term rentals?
You're on mute, bud.
You're on mute. So I kind of fell into it. I had a flip in Indianapolis that I was working on. It was a duplex, and the plan was to do a condo conversion. So the units would get split onto their own tax parcel, and so I could sell the units off individually. And I completed that in the middle of the whole lockdown thing, put it on the market in the holiday season, and it was just crickets for more than a month on it. So while that was going on, I was talking to some other investors there in Indy who were doing pretty well with their short-term rentals there. So I decided to pull them off the market and then get them furnished and then get them up on Airbnb. So so this is kind of one of the things why it's good to have multiple exit strategies when you get into a project, because your intended exit might not go quite according to plan. So so it ended up going on the market, on the Airbnb market, like March, April of last year, and then had a few issues early on, but those have been ironed out, and it's been doing pretty well since the summertime.
That's awesome. So you just have that listed on Airbnb?
Airbnb and VRBO. I have a property management company there. I'm like Cody, I'm just totally hands off. I don't want to have anything to do with the properties that I own. I'm willing to pay somebody to handle all that stuff. So it's actually the property management company that's handling my long-term rentals as well. They got a division that does short-term rentals. So I'm paying 10% for the long-term rentals and property management fees, and then 20% for the short-term rentals.
And Cody, Jeff had a question for your 30%. Does your 30% cover housekeeping? You're on mute. Cody, you're on mute.
Sorry, realized I was off on mute. The perils of Zoom. No, it does not cover housekeeping, but the guests pay for it, right? It's part of their booking. So if they're paying, you know, $800 a night, then they're going to pay $800 a night times 3 nights plus $250 for cleaning. Oftentimes the cleanings, we charge a little bit more than what the actual cost is, partly because sometimes you never know, right? Like sometimes the cleaner is going to be there for 2 hours, sometimes they're going to be there for 5, right? So I think they just take an average. Sometimes it's a little more, sometimes it's a little less. I did notice a question about mine too. Mine was off market. I had been talking to a local area real estate agent over there that was pretty well connected. Told him what I was looking for, and I just said, like, hey, I like, the market's so hot, I can't drop everything and drive over here on a Tuesday when somebody lists their house to be part of the conversation. So could you call your database and see if anybody's thinking about selling? And so we were able to put together a deal off market. I didn't have to compete with offers written. I didn't have to like run over there and look at it because I made a couple offers sight unseen, and they wouldn't take them because they wanted me to see them first, and it just didn't fit in my schedule. So thankfully, we were able to find an off-market deal there. My new one in Arizona that was under contract was actually on the MLS. It was a failed deal, and Jennifer actually spotted it and sent it to me, and we took it down before it hit the market again.
Awesome. And then I saw Lauren in the comments just signed today on their second home in Surprise, Arizona, which is where Kazie has her short-term rental. So Kazie, can you tell us about how you came across that?
Yeah, I actually did all of the searching myself. I just used Redfin, which as a real estate agent myself, I hate to promote Redfin, but used Redfin and searched every day and started really learning the area and really taking into account, we had taken our first trip down there in August, and it was, I think, on average 110 degrees. And we got to experience what that felt like and how hot it was outside, even in the shade. So I learned some tricks on things with directions I wanted to face with the backyard, extra features I was looking for as a guest down there. What would I want as a guest? So just took that and ran with it and made a couple of offers. It was equally as competitive for us in Arizona as the Seattle market is. But one thing I did find interesting is I was ready to put down this huge earnest money check, and found an agent at that point, and I said, well, should I put down, $10,000 or does it need to be $50,000? What does it need to be to look pretty on paper? And his response was, no, like $5,000 looks amazing. I'm like, well, that's perfect. Let's do 5. And so, yeah, we only took one trip down there. We have a friend who jumped before us. We helped her put it together, and I helped her decorate it. And I thought, this is crazy. Why don't we do this? So made 2 offers on Redfin, got the second one, it stuck. And here we are today with Arizona.
And are you self-managing or using a property management?
Yeah, so we are using Evolve currently. Evolve is not hands-on at all. So I'm opposite of Rob and Cody, and I prefer to have more involvement in this because I put so much sweat and love into this house. And I became very attached to it. My husband looks at it as dollar signs. And so for me, it's like, somebody's in our house, I want to be involved. So I spend a lot of time, which is more enjoyable to me probably than most. So I'm trying to have as much guest communication as possible, as much as they want, because in my opinion, it's going to drive better reviews if I'm available often for them. But I use Evolve. They're our management company. They handle all the bookings. They handle collecting the money, distributing the money. They pay Arizona TPT tax for us. They handle insurance on items. Trying to think if there's much else that they do. They do the dynamic pricing for us. So they fluctuate the prices up and down based on what's going to be in the area, and seasonal and all that good stuff. So that's who we use.
As a follow-up to that, Keith was wondering how they help handle your insurance.
Yeah, so what they do is they charge each guest $14 a night. And that $14 a night covers anything up to $3,000 during their stay. So for example, if they break the dining room table chair, I can say, I just bought this chair at American Furniture Warehouse. It was $125. Here's a picture of it broken. And then they directly reimburse us through this insurance company. It has no effect on your homeowner's insurance. The guests never see it, and the guests are never notified or yelled at. You broke a chair, you're doomed. And so it keeps everybody happy, which again goes to my idea of wanting good reviews.
And then what is the property management fee for Evolve?
Oh, yeah, I see that. It's 10% of the rental amount. They also take 10% of your cleaning amount. So they charge, my house cleaner charges $175 cleaning. And then we up it to $215 and actually get to make a little bit of profit on each one. Yeah, because Evolve will take the 10% on the cleaning as well.
Awesome. I thought it was a really great point that you brought up. What would I want as a guest? So you really put yourself in your guest shoes so you can deliver the best experience. What are some other lessons that you guys have learned through short-term rentals? Rob?
Oh, why doesn't it automatically go off of mute when you open your mouth? They should have figured this out by now, 2 years into the pandemic. Geez. Probably, there's definitely different issues that you face than with long-term rentals. I know one thing that the property management company has struggled with a bit is parties at the units, right? And that wasn't ever really, it hasn't really ever been an issue at any of my other rentals. So we're looking for, ways that we can try to mitigate that. There's ways to install like noise detectors where once the noise reaches a certain decibel level, it can send an alert. Put ring cameras outside, kind of keep track of how many people are going in and out of the units. And then also becoming friendly with the neighbors in the neighborhood. It's better to have them on your side. I know some of them have complained about issues with parking and the parties and stuff like that. So the property management company has been reaching out to the people that live around there to say we want to definitely work with them and be made aware of anything that's going on out there that's affecting the neighborhood. So it's been a different set of issues than with the regular rentals.
And Cody, how about you?
Yeah, I'm a little hands off on the management of it, but as I was researching it, one of my buddies had a place over in like Sun Cove area, and they would interview, like they ran it themselves, and they would actually interview the guests before they let them book, which I thought was interesting. I don't have the time or bandwidth to be able to do that, but if you're going to manage it on your own and you want to really protect your property, I think that'd be a great idea. And they were able to build good relationship with people and kind of figure out, who they wanted and who they didn't want to rent their place, right? Like no offense, but the 20-somethings bachelor parties were probably not the right fit for their house, right? And so they could figure that out before they were there. And they had a couple of cams that were out there that they would tell people, hey, there's a camera and it monitors the parking lot and it monitors this space, and we're not, peeping on you, but it's there for our protection. And, you're limited to X number of cars. That's not our rule. That's the development rule. So don't go over, right? And if you do, we're going to see it, we're going to know it, and we're going to find you, right? So they had that capability. Mine's in the woods and there's lots of parking, so I don't really care about it, honestly. And mine's built for, for families basically. So it's a little bit different. I will say every time you go back though, things are a little different. Things are a little broken. Like it happens, right? So you got to put together a little budget out of your profits to be able to replace things, dishes, glasses, towels, lint, all those sorts of things is a regular occurrence. And don't put anything in there that you're going to fall in love with, right? Like don't painting or a chandelier or something like that. Man, oh man, their kids are going to swing from the chandeliers and the paint is going to have fingerprints all over it, right? People will trash what's there. And just, our budget is we're going to plan to replace the interior furnishings like the tchotchkes like every couple of years, right? Probably every 3 to 4 years. 1, it keeps it fresh, and 2, they won't last anyways.
And what percentage are you holding aside for maintenance?
Yeah, so far I've been doing 20% of the overall net to me income. So we're putting that in a little buffer. Ours is a little different too, in the sense that it's got pretty harsh weather, right? It's really warm in the summer and it's really cold and snowy in the winter. So, we'll face things like ice dams on the roof and we have a snowplow budget, right? So you got to make sure you have a snowplow budget when you're in the mountains too. So, all these little different things that I didn't expect along the way, but it's been fun and interesting for that. The Arizona place, I think I'll have a very light snowplow budget, but we might also have to, replace, paint a little more often or replace some things that go bad because they're, damaged by the heat. So outdoor furniture probably isn't going to last as long, that sort of thing.
And Kazie, what's something that you've learned through this experience so far? I know you just got started.
Yeah. Gosh, at this point, I'm starting to learn there are other options other than Evolve. So that's something that there's other options out there for pricing and whatnot. I do find it very interesting for those who may not want to go with Evolve or a management company and just do it on their own. We have 11 bookings at this point, and I believe all 11 of them have come from Airbnb, which I just find amazing. Nothing comes from Evolve, which I did not know. I thought it would be a source of rentals, but Evolve is just the host and then spreads it out to 7 platforms, I believe. And of the 7 platforms, again, everything's Airbnb. So, and then another thing I'm learning is getting your 5-star reviews is a lag time. So it's like a couple, 2, 3, 4 week lag time, which I'm wanting them immediately so that we can have some on there. Those are some learning curves that I've had right now. Also learning how to pay the Arizona TPT tax is interesting. Evolve said that they took care of that for us, and they did not, or they do, but I still am required to monthly file a $0 return, which is just another step that I thought they took care of and I don't want to, but I'm stuck doing that on a monthly basis. Yeah, just I'm actually learning more of what I didn't know is what is really coming about.
You don't know what you don't know until you come across it.
Yeah.
So both Denise and Patricia were also wondering how you decide to pick what market you want to be in or pick what area you want to be in.
I'll take it. We went to Surprise, Arizona, just after being there. It's beautiful. Everything is clean. So the streets are clean. There's no rubbish on the sides of the streets. The landscaping is beautiful. So we just ended up there by chance. And the cost to purchase was so low for us there. So that was, what you could buy for a house there is double what you would buy for a house in Seattle. So it was still very affordable. And then also we were going to target kind of the market with the baseball stadium. So spring training and all of that. So that was a drive for us, is to be near spring training. And it just kind of all for us fell together, thankfully in a very successful way so far that we can see. But we didn't do a lot of research as far as what would be the best short-term rental area. For us, we fell into it and it looks so great.
I'll give a little advice there, because I've been in the real estate and mortgage game for a number of years, and I mentioned it as in my intro that Suncadia got hammered in the downturn. I think specific second home markets could get hammered again if there's another downturn. I'm not forecasting that. I think we're quite a ways away from any sort of real estate correction based on demand and the number of houses that we're building and the overall demand for housing. But when that happens again, I think that those kinds of markets can get hit. And so for my advice would be the Suncadia markets, the Ronald markets like mine that are vacation friendly, but like heavy on the second home where people will buy that. When people are having a tough time paying for their primary home, they definitely don't pay for their second home, right? And so that area got hurt really bad because there was a lot of people that had bought speculative lots. They had bought homes that they maybe felt like they could afford, but then all of a sudden one or both of them lost their job, and now they're struggling to keep their primary house. They're sure as heck not going to pay for their second home, right? So those markets can get hurt really bad. So if you feel like you missed it, You maybe did, but there might be an opportunity in the next 10 years to scoop something else up over there. I bought over there because I like it over there and I wanted a place over there and I felt like I could afford it. So my advice, if you're going to get into like a short-term rental specifically for profit, would be buy more in the metro center, like, you know, like a Surprise or a Scottsdale, or, you know, something in a metro area where you still have the capability of renting it more long-term, right? I'm not going to get a long-term renter in Ronald, Washington, probably, right? Because it's not commutable. But if things change or the zoning changes and all of a sudden you can't short-term rental anymore, right? Having something in an area where you have other exit strategies like Rob was mentioning, I think would be good. Personally as well, I would go for something that has, a longer season of rental as well. Again, I bought in Ronald because I want a cabin in Ronald. I didn't necessarily buy it just because it's a killer short-term rental. It works out so far, but it may not always. But a place like, Cape Coral, Florida, or Miami, Scottsdale, those kinds of places have nearly year-round draws. So you got much longer season where you're not going to have a lot of shoulder season where there's light occupancy.
Great points. And Rob, are you looking to add any more short-term rentals, and what are you considering for your markets?
Yeah, so I mean, I guess another question is, like, even within a market, like where's a good place to actually determine where you should pick up a short-term rental. So I mean, kind of like I mentioned, I fell into mine in Indianapolis, but I was comfortable keeping it as a short-term rental because it's right at the very edge of downtown, within walking distance of the football stadium there. So it's a pretty good location. I have another rental in Indy, or I had another rental in Indy that the lease was up and I was either going to sell it or considering turning it into a short-term rental as well. And it was further outside of downtown, in a bit sketchier area of Indy. And what I did there is I basically looked to see what other Airbnbs were going for there in the area, because I was kind of curious, and there wasn't a whole lot of listings around there. So I was either, this is a good sign in that you wouldn't have any competition, or it's a bad sign in that there's no demand here for people wanting to stay in short-term rentals. So I being a bit risk averse, I decided to go ahead and just sell that property and not try to turn it into a short-term rental. I was like, I don't want to spend the 10 grand to furnish it and get everything set up and then put it out there. And then, I'm losing money on it every month paying this mortgage, and nobody wants to stay there. So I think a really good tool is AirDNA. You can research markets on it. You can, I think, get one area for free, or there's a certain free level of that tool where you can get some really basic statistics about a market, like very high level nightly rates and occupancy information based on bedroom count. And then if you want to pay for more granular data, you can do that by zip code. So if you kind of know where you want to target, you can drill those down in those numbers even further if you're willing to pay the $40 a month or whatever it is for that for that data. And Host Financial actually has a tool. I just pasted a link in the chat there, that you can go and type in an address and tell it how many bedrooms it has, how many guests can stay there. And it uses AirDNA to give you an estimate of the nightly rate and the average occupancy for that area. So I've used that also to kind of, when looking at other properties, to see if they might make sense for short-term rentals.
Yeah, thank you for sharing those resources. Jennifer also really likes using Host Financial and AirDNA as well. What is the rate of return number that is helping you determine if it would make a good short-term rental?
Oh, I don't have like a specific metric that I use with my properties. When I'm looking at picking up just a rental in general, I try to see how much capital I can get back out after I've done the renovation and then refinance it. So that's really what I'm going for, is looking for deals that I can get nearly all my capital back out on the refi. And then, whether or not I would look at a property as either a short-term rental or just a regular long-term rental is going to be based more on the area.
Personally, I'm looking to get 20% on a short-term rental or more. And that's after all expenses, right? So including the extra reserve for people breaking stuff and that sort of thing. And, Rob mentioned, I think there was a question in the chat about, can you burr a short-term rental? Absolutely, right? Like that's what Rob did. I think, Smith, I may have misheard him, but it sounded like it was a flip that didn't go so well, right? And so, yeah, so, it was a flip, right? Which is the first part of a burr, but instead of selling it, he refinanced it, got his cash back out and rented it, but didn't just rent it as a long-term rental, but rented as a short-term rental. There was another question about the refinance. So the refinance on a burr short-term rental, that's where you need to be careful. And again, I'll put my lender hat on for a minute. Short-term rental purchases are generally speaking for investors that are pretty well qualified, right? Because investing in a short-term rental through conventional means, right? So regular conventional lending, it can be great because you can do as little as 10% down, as long as you fit the conforming loan size limits for the area, but you're also now hitting for the entire payment, right? Where the magic of investing, long-term rentals is you get to count 75% of the rent from the long-term lease from the market rent survey. So you don't have to have it rented. But when you're looking at buying a short-term rental as a second home, you're going to have to qualify for the entire monthly payment as well as all your other monthly payments you got now. And if you're going to come back and refinance it, and it's a short-term rental, then you don't have a lease in hand. So again, you're going to have to qualify for the whole payment. So it's not necessarily for the folks that are, struggling to make sure that every dollar matters on a cash flow basis from buying a long-term rental, unless you were to go to something that's more portfolio type lending. There's a couple lenders out there that lend using AirDNA data and then cutting that down by a certain margin. But that's a totally different animal. Generally speaking, considerably higher interest rates, more money down, and probably everything I've looked at that does that has a 5-year prepay. So it's you're going to be in that property for a while, or you're going to have a big premium to pay to get out.
Yeah, that's what I got actually. So I've got no W-2 job, and so my options were somewhat limited. So I went with one of those asset-based lenders, and my rate's like 5.5%, and I got a 5-year prepay penalty on it. So it was the financing was definitely a bit more expensive than if you were able to go with a conventional loan.
Oh, I see a follow-up question on mine. 10% down. You can do that. You can have multiple second homes. I have not tested the multiple second homes in the same marketplace, but like if you said, hey, I want a place in the mountains and I want a place in the desert and I want a place at the beach, if you can afford them, you can buy them 10% down. That's not a problem. The issue would be it's like if you buy a place that has a $2,000 house payment, it's like having a $2,000 car payment, right? There's no income to offset it. So if you do that 2 or 3 times, if you don't have significant income, you may not be able to do that. Now that said, scaling longer term, once you've got that short-term rental on your tax return for a year, then we can bring the rental income from that property to offset the mortgage. But while that year is ticking by, it's a noose around your neck, right? It's a big car payment. So you have to, if you're going to do that, you're probably going to plan on a little longer time schedule.
And Kazie, as you dive longer or deeper into the short-term rental market, do you feel like there's not any numbers you're considering? Because I know you mentioned before you weren't really looking at the numbers, more just what you would personally prefer.
Yeah, I finally went through and used Jennifer's calculator and put all the numbers in to actually see where we're at. And I was really pleasantly surprised. I think for diving in to it, we did pretty good. I've got my spreadsheet up, and right now where our cash on cash return is looking at 21.24%, and our total return on investment is almost 60%. So I'm projecting this year with this home, we're we're going to end up bringing in about $85,000. And that was a real small number. I cut everything really short and did smaller occupancies that I think are actually going to happen, and just to be on the real conservative side of that. But yeah, I was really fun actually putting in the numbers into the calculator and like, this looks awesome. Finally, this is great. So I'm happy to share numbers with anybody and any of that. So I only know surprise short-term rentals though.
Awesome. Thanks for that share. And if anyone else has any questions, feel free to use the raise hand function and we can bring you on. Feel free to unmute as well. But Jacob did have another question on regards to loans. Can you talk about some of the upcoming second home loan changes that will be coming out in April? Will that make things harder to use the second home loan option?
Yes, it will. If what they've put out actually comes together, which they tried this before and the industry scratched and clawed and got them to take it back. So I don't know if we'll have success again, but generally speaking, they're changing what they call a loan level price adjustment. So these are for 30-year fixed rate mortgage for a vanilla flavored 800 credit score, 20% down, best of the best borrower is, I don't know, 3%, let's say. Then as you have different things, different risk factors will add or subtract from that rate. And so a loan level price adjustment is, let's say you have an 800 credit score and I have a 700 credit score. Well, I'm not going to get as good a rate as you. If you're buying an investment property and I'm buying a primary residence, then you're going to pay more because it's an investment property. And Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac have determined that those are more risky for them, right? And so second homes now are going to have, second homes and investment properties are going to have a new level of LLPAs, or loan level price adjustment. And it really boils down to Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac saying, we're here for home ownership, not multiple home ownership, right? If you want to buy more than one house, we'll do it still, but we're going to charge you more. And what they're really doing is they're encouraging the secondary market, the non-QM, the other lenders that's not Fannie and Freddie, to come in and probably scoop up some of that business. I think they think it's going to make their portfolio stronger and more resistant to what could be a coming event of a housing collapse or housing crash, right? So last time, the Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac took it in the shorts because some people had 20, 30, 40 properties and they waved their hands up and said, I'm not going to pay and take the house back, right? And so it caused a whole big collapse. And then they came out and said, hey, we're going to limit it to 10. You can have 10 finance properties. And then the loan level price adjustments got adjusted a little bit more. And now this is going to be a big one. We don't know exactly where it's going to land, but it could be up to a 4% fee for investment or second home. And it will likely be varying depending on credit score and down payment. So the lower credit score, 10% down second home could have a pretty substantial fee that goes along with it. So what that means is you would still be able to do the product, still be able to get the low level interest rate, but you'd have an extra fee for it. Or instead of paying the big fee, you could say, well, if the going rate is 3%, then I'm going to take a 3 3/4% rate. Right. So it doesn't mean you can't do it. It will make it a little harder to cash flow, but it's still going to be there and available. So what that means, though, is the non-QM or the alternate type products like our debt service coverage ratio program are going to start to look a little more appealing. Right. Their rates are a little higher right now. Their fees are a little higher right now. But if Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac go up and then maybe we cut those fees on those products down a little bit, well, pretty soon they might actually be better than a Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac loan for a certain loan type. And they're actually easier to get too, right? That debt service coverage ratio, you don't, like Rob, you don't have to have a job to do that loan, right? You just need to have 680 credit score, a 1-to-1 debt service coverage ratio, and 20% down, right? So it makes it a little easier. So it will get harder in one side, but it might get a little easier on the other.
Awesome. Jacob, let us know if you have any other follow-up questions, but I do see Emily's hand is up. Emily, what do you got for us?
I'm unmuting myself. Hi. We are about to turn our home into a short-term rental, and I had some insurance questions. And I don't know if any of you have any perspective on this, especially with maybe some homes in Arizona. So one of the things we're considering is like getting a hot tub for the back to help kind of like that, what would you like if you were going to have this? But there's also those insurance risks, and so kind of, we have a play structure in the back for kids to play on. We're thinking about getting a hot tub. And so would you recommend it with things like that? Or have you found it to be an issue or not? How does that work if there is a problem? And then do you have a specific type of insurance for short-term rentals? Did you let your insurance agent know that it was going to be a short-term rental, or how does that side work? I don't know if this was answered. I got cut off for a little bit, so sorry if it was.
I feel like my backyard in Arizona could be one of the biggest risk backyards there is. We have rocks in the backyard that my son jumps from the top of them, and I think they're 7 or 8 feet above the pool. And then the pool is, I think it's 8 or 10 feet deep. And then there's waterfalls to jump off of. There's all of that. So I really have a scary pool. However, what we did was I was very forthcoming with the insurance company. I just called my local insurance company. They directed me to a different division, with it being, I think it was because actually of an insurance claim in the past. So it had nothing to do with it. I let them know it was a short-term rental. I let them know there's a pool. Their first question was, is there a fence around the pool? I let them know yes. They asked about approximately how many days per month I'd be renting it. I think I gave them 20, but it was still $1,200 a month, or I'm sorry, a year for insurance. So really not that bad for a whole house, in my opinion. I think that's answering all your question. Did I miss something?
No, that was the main question. And then would you recommend, if we don't, we're just debating if we're doing the investment, we're looking for a used hot tub, but do you think that that's something that, is worth, have you seen the pool and things like that, or hot tubs or anything like that being beneficial for short-term rentals, or?
Yeah, at least in our market in Arizona, yes. I mean, people are going down for vacationing. However, we ended up with a pool that's not heated. So again, that's one of my wish I would have known better problems with Arizona, is that it was sold to us as a heated pool. And I went with the assumption that a heat pump will heat a pool. And that's not true in 40-degree weather. It needs to be heated with a gas heater. A heat pump will not do it. So I thought it was going to hinder us, and in turn, it's actually making our life a lot easier. I've got 2 friends also in Surprise with heated pools that they advertise for rent, and it turns out to be more of a hindrance. People complain, it's only 80 degrees. I want it at 100. It's not warming up fast enough. And so I made it very blunt in our advertisement that it's a non-heated pool. To answer your question about the hot tub though, yes, I'm going to, my husband and I eventually will be adding a hot tub so that it's an easier maintenance item to have a hot tub there and running for the cold winter months. But I'm leaning towards just right away going with everything new. So I'm going to bite the bullet and go with a new hot tub just for the mechanics of it. I don't want it to break down on me and then have another problem when we're 2.5 hours away, because your reliance on other people. I don't have a maintenance crew, for example. So I'm going the cheaper route with a less expensive management company. And then it's on us to figure out how we're going to fix the hot tub, how we're going to fix the screen door that's slamming shut right now, or put a new light in the house. So I'm already trying to figure out how we're going to handle all these maintenance issues. So for me, I'm going to spend $2,000 or $3,000 more, get a new one that comes with a warranty and a local company to install it versus Costco, because I can get the local company out if need be. So it's all about forward thinking for us on how am I going to, have easier time with this when it does break down, when I'm in Seattle and this is Arizona.
That's really good perspective. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
You're here to that too. Spend a little bit more up front, I think, because the cost of a bad review for somebody who couldn't get the hot tub to work because it was, old or wasn't working, or the other thing, I was just talking to my manager over in Ronald, and he was saying they were having to do some big credits for ovens that weren't working on Thanksgiving. Right. And so these, people had not serviced their furnace, they had not serviced their oven, they had not, taken care of things to make sure that they were running. And not only did they get a negative review that you really can't get rid of, and then they also have to give a big credit for, basically they had to go out to dinner instead of cooking a Thanksgiving dinner, right? And that's a memory these people won't have, and it's just, I think it's negative. You don't want to step over dollars to pick up dimes,
Right.
Totally makes sense. Okay, cool.
Our Arizona house is nicer than our Seattle house. It's
Yeah. Okay. It's really helpful. Thank you.
And Kazie, there was a follow-up question. What insurance company are you using?
We ended up with Travelers for everything. So we started with Geico. Geico pushed us over to Travelers, and they've got it handled.
Rob, did you have anything to add to Emily's insurance question?
No, I've just been using the same insurance company that I'm using on all my other rentals in Indianapolis there.
Awesome.
I see over on the chat there, Diana, figuring out numbers for my monthly expenses. I just went through and called the local utilities is what I really did. And then asked friends that are in the area as well for, their pool guy. What is that going to cost? And we ended up paying more for a pool guy because of the size of it and the gallons that it takes. But just, your basic electric and your water, sewer, all of that stuff, it seems very reasonable compared to the Seattle market. But there are more vendors you're going to need. You're going to need, like the pest control on a monthly basis. And then we ended up going bigger, exactly like Cody just said, with, full cable with HBO Max in every bedroom, just so that it's a better experience and nobody's going to complain that their room doesn't have cable versus somebody else's. So I just went through all the local utilities and then added in your specialties, the pool guy, the landscaper, and the pest guy. I'm trying to think of the house cleaner, all of the added expenses. But I'm running right now, our utilities are costing us about $900 a month. So that's where we're at on that home.
And so you said you had put in a lot of time into your short-term rental. You didn't hire a staging company or anyone to help furnish, right?
No. No.
Kazie's got a knack for design though, so she's a little special compared to me. So to give you an idea on that, on my Scottsdale, so the place in Ronald came furnished, right? So that's the kind of fun thing about buying in a short-term rental market, is a lot of times you'll actually get all the stuff that's in the property as well. But then, you got to be careful what you buy too, right? Because some of it's already trashed. So we've had to update a few things there. But in Scottsdale, it's coming vacant, right? There won't be anything in there. So the guy that's going to manage it for me has a designer down there, and they basically are soup to nuts. Right? They will do the entire thing. We actually just had a design and budget call with them. This is it'll end up being a 6-bedroom, 200 square foot house, and to outfit it with everything: beds, bed frames, the mattresses, the linens, the tables, the chairs, all the tchotchkes, everything, and design fee ended up being about $80,000. So I could probably do it a lot less if I had the time to go down there and shop and do all the things. But I also, time is money as well, right? Not only for my time, but like I need this thing up and running as soon as possible. And this gal knows how to get it done, right? So she said in 10 days after I close, it'll be rentable.
Wow. That's incredible. So my side of the story on that one is we went down and did it all ourselves on 2 trips. So I think we had, 16 days in. My husband did all the maintenance. My husband did all the lighting fixtures. We put in all new flooring everywhere because the people before had dogs. We didn't want to have a review saying it smelled bad. But we busted our bums for a good solid 2 weeks and 2 trips. And then I did all the internet shopping before we even got there. So I had I think I probably had 50 Amazon orders and local furniture deliveries delivering on the day we arrived, and beds in boxes that we had to unpack and let them breathe and all of that. But our cost compared to Cody's to do the same thing was $26,700 to completely furnish the home, top to bottom, everything you need, every kitchen
What's
utensil.
your size on that, just for reference, Kazie? How big's the house and how many
Oh
bedrooms?
yeah. Yep. So we it's about 2,500 square feet, and we've got 5 bedrooms. So we actually have 8 beds. We did 2 kings, 2 queens, 2 kings, 2 queens, and 2 sets of bunk beds. So it's a lot. And one tip that was brought to me very late in the game with short-term rentals is you want to buy double of everything. So the same exact duvet cover that's in the master bedroom, I have in a whole set of exact matching everything that's kept in closet just in case. So we've got doubles of everything, which added a lot of cost, but it's totally necessary. And like, towels, we can sleep 12 in ours. And so we have, 24 towels. And so the cost of it was, not as bad, but it's still a lot of money. But I had the time.
I'll pay
Cody,
you 50 to go do mine. Don't you kidding?
Wait a minute. I'll throw my hat in the game for 70.
70? Oh man. Still a good deal.
Yeah, still a good deal. I'll save you money.
Meetup wants to know if you can buy furniture with a loan.
Not with my loan.
And along the lines of loans, does Caliber offer a DSCR at 15% down?
For second home, yes. For investment, minimum's 20% down.
Awesome. And then turning over to Rob, did you end up having someone furnish for you?
Yeah, so the property management company, so the people that run that company actually own a bunch of their own STRs as well. And so they basically charged me, they said they would charge me 10% of whatever the cost was going to be for actually going out to purchase all the furnishings and then be there at the house when everything was delivered to set everything up. So it was another thing that I didn't really have time or really interest in picking out furnishings and stuff like that. So I was happy to pay them to do all that for me. So when all said and done, it ended up being about $30,000 to get the 2 duplex units furnished and set up.
That's awesome.
Yeah, with all it sounds like chaos that Kazie was describing, everything arriving on the same day. And I'm over here wondering, is this worse than moving? It seems like it'd be more fun, like putting together your little dream house.
Well, and that's what it was for us. So we got to make it a second home that we would enjoy. We want to go down to, things for the kids. So we did a ping pong table and a foosball table. And, that was what our idea was. And then I just need to convince my husband that we need to move to it soon. So.
Yeah, my PM said we need to have, multiple areas of interest, especially down there. That he said what most people do is they'll rent a place, they'll bring a couple families together, and then they just kind of camp out, right? They don't really go do too much other stuff. So ping pong table, foosball table. Yeah. We're putting a sport court in the backyard that'll be actually lit with pickleball and a hoop, right? So you basically, that's hours of entertainment, right? It already has a pool. It already has a hot tub. We're going to put in in-ground fire pit and then do some shade over the backyard area. And then probably, I'm actually going to replace all the grass with turf as well. Yeah. That was one thing that he gave me as a recommendation, which actually resonated with me because we just got back from an Airbnb in Palm Springs and we lost like half a day outside to mowing and blowing and edging and all the yard work. And so, by replacing that and putting turf in there, there's never going to be a time where I've got 3 hours worth of yard crew back there eating into my guest time. And I didn't complain personally, but it was kind of a bummer, right? Like it would definitely, if I was more of a reviewer and a complainer, it definitely would have been a complaint worthy item because 4 hours there was chainsaws running and, you know, edges and blows and all that sort of stuff. So replacing with turf, it's a little expensive, but it also takes away the need to water it. And in Arizona, that's substantial. It takes away the need for management, maintenance of the yard, and we can put in a putting green as part of the gig, right? So.
Yep. We did the same thing with, we did the pool, we did the fire pit. We're going to do a hot tub, and then inside entertainment, because it's so dang hot there in the summer months, and not even the summer months, just even June, it'll hit 110. Yeah. So inside stuff as well, like a Nintendo game console and things for multiple age levels of kids, which I had really only planned for my kids at 4 and 6, but bringing older games in was important as well.
And then we also had a question. What kind of mattresses did you buy?
The mattresses. Oh, I would have to go look. I think it starts with a Z. They're the mattresses in a box. Yes, but I did multiple different versions. And then I ended up getting a real mattress with springs on it for our lower bedroom, and went for an age range of like an older couple or grandma age. So I went and talked to the mattress company about that and what kind of mattresses do older people typically buy. And I went with a mattress that's a firmer mattress on the lower level, because assuming it would be a grandparent that would be staying in it. But I tried to tailor each room to who I felt would be that person. So I put way too much thought into this.
No, that's awesome though. You're really considering the guest experience.
Yeah.
Ed was wondering if you guys have instant book enabled, and why or why not, and was wondering if you seem to notice that there's more bookings if you do enable instant booking.
I don't know. I don't
know what that is.
Yeah. The property manager handles that stuff, so I'm assuming it's enabled, but I don't know for sure.
I did get a tip from somebody that I don't even know if we're using, but I'm going to call my manager on, is the extend your stay feature. Like, I guess a day or two before the stay comes up, they email the people that are booked there. And if a day or two are available on either side of their stay, they let them know, like, hey, would you like to extend? And, you know, we can reach out to the owner for a cost. The guy was saying that he does that, and about 50% of the time he gets one more day on either side.
It's a really good tip to consider.
Yeah.
Cody and Rob, how much time do you spend a month on your STR, since you're both trying to be very passive? And if you don't want to be spending a lot of time, is it possible to do a short-term rental?
I don't spend very much time on it at all. Probably the most time I spend on it is figuring out if I want to go, and if there's a week that I can squeeze in there between the bookings, right? So yeah, I mean, I guess I spend maybe 10 minutes and look at my monthly statement and check it out. And then other than that, it's just kind of every once in a while look and see what's booked and what's available.
Yeah, it's about the same for me as well. I mean, I don't ever stay at mine, but I'll look over the monthly statement, and sometimes the property manager will reach out to me if there's something going on that needs my attention, but it's pretty infrequent when that happens. So I don't think I'm spending any more time on my STRs than I am on my regular rentals that the PM is managing for me as well.
And Kazie, how much time do you feel like you're normally spending on it now that you've gotten all the front end work done?
Yeah, not a lot of time. I send out just a quick email because I'm really looking for the guest interaction. So I send out a quick email before they come. And this gal that just showed up today never responded, never heard back. I saw her get in on the camera, so I know she's good. But yeah, I don't really spend a lot of time that's necessary. I spend a lot of time just looking at bookings and seeing when I can get in, like Cody says.
Yeah, it's nice to be able to invest in places that you actually want to visit.
Yeah.
What other questions do you guys have for Rob, Cody, and Kazie? Throw them in the chat or utilize the raise hand function. We'll bring you on. I was wondering, what is something that you would do differently?
Hmm. I don't know. I mean, I don't really have, I don't have anything that I would do different. I don't think.
You know, I do have some things that we would do different. I would learn the area a bit better. And like I said, we made the mistake of buying in, I'm trying to pull up my spreadsheet. We bought in an area with, like I said, we thought we had a heated pool. Turns out we did not. So our pool guy said, not a problem, just go hook it up to gas. Well, we didn't look into that, and there is no gas service in our neighborhood. So we were really up a creek without a paddle. We don't have a choice. The pool cannot be heated. So I would definitely look at all the utilities before you buy and make sure you can get gas if you wanted it. Another mistake we made was we did not check out the HOA prior to buying. And it turns out, actually, I did learn it halfway through. We could have backed out. We chose not to. But the HOA would not allow for anything less than a 30-day rental is how it's written. So we are kind of taking a risk with doing short-term rentals. I went through Airbnb and found local people that are in the same HOA. There turns out to be, I think, 3 Airbnbs also going in our neighborhood. I was able to contact one of them. She said it hadn't been a problem, been doing it a year. But with that being said, I made it a point to really make our neighbors like us. So I brought gift baskets to the neighbors that are directly next to our pool, because to me, that's going to be the most affected neighbor. So that was one tip I wish I had looked at, but I also think it's not something you can avoid in the future. I think any HOA can change with voting and whatever else to not allow short-term rentals, which I'm hearing in Arizona is becoming more of a thing. They're not liking them, I don't think. So I'd really advise, if you're looking in an area, to check on your HOA. And then your utilities. For us, it was important to buy a home with solar, just because the benefit of using the solar for the air conditioning and whatnot. So I would look at all those broad spectrums of things. We at least got the solar part right, because in Arizona, a lot of the solar is leased. And so they'll sell it to you as the house comes with solar, but it also comes with a 20-year lease to pay back the solar. And now you are in charge of the 20-year lease. So we did get paid for solar. Also, like water filtration systems, that was big on my list to look for and already in. Less of a thing to have to put in and waste your time to get on market. I wanted to get on market fast. So I did a lot of that research prior to. And then also, like I mentioned earlier, what direction your house faces. I wanted to make sure that summertime people would at least have some shade to escape from. So when you buy homes down there, I wanted to be able to also resell it possibly. And a lot of people do not want to have a home that's going to face south, to have the all-day sunlight on their backyard. So that was important to me as well. So a lot of things to either go from a short-term rental and then move it into just a regular rental, make sure you can make some money on that still, and then also resell it. So all the basics, I guess, for reselling. But we made some mistakes. So look into your utilities and your HOA for sure.
Rob, is there anything else that you would have done differently?
So I wish I was on my property management company earlier with trying to get some of the issues that we were having ironed out sooner. So I kind of just handed it over to them and thought everything would be great. And like I had mentioned, we were having issues with parties and neighbors complaining and stuff like that. And so the other thing too that I noticed was that pricing seemed pretty high relative to what other comparable properties were renting for. And so I'd asked the property manager about that, and they said, "Oh, we're raising the rates because we feel like it's going to, prohibit like people that want to party from renting it." Well, in the meantime, my occupancy went down as a result of that. So it didn't really have the intended effect that they wanted to have. So I ended up having them set up Price Labs, which is a dynamic pricing service, and it looks at occupancy of other properties and events that are going on and stuff like that in order to determine the nightly rates. And from what I've heard, what Airbnb's automated pricing does is it's optimizing pricing for Airbnb's revenue, not for your revenue. So if for some reason it isn't beneficial for them to lower your rate to try to get somebody in your property, but into somebody else's property down the street, they're going to adjust the pricing to try to do that. And so Price Labs is actually just looking at your own, maximizing your own revenue. So we ended up pulling it off of Airbnbs and moving it over to Price Labs. So I wish I had started that stuff like right out of the gates, and keeping an eye on it until I knew things were running smoothly.
Great tips. And we had a question for Cody. Can you combine multiple short-term rental properties into a single loan for easier management? And I had another loan question.
Not with a conventional loan. Conventional loans are one-to-one. Debt service coverage ratio loans are one-to-one. There are blanket loans that you can incorporate more than one property into a loan. Generally, I have found them to be very expensive to obtain. Like, they're significant fees to get there. You would have to reappraise every single house, and you have to usually do a minimum of 5 properties to use a blanket loan.
And then can you use a Heloc to buy a short-term rental?
Sure. You can use a Heloc to go bet it all on black in Vegas if you want, right? I mean, you can use a home equity line of credit to do anything you want. That said, it is a fine source for a verifiable source of the down payment. If you're going to use a Heloc to pay cash for a property, you're more than welcome to do that too.
Is there a better tax benefit with short-term versus long-term rental?
I'm no CPA. I believe you would enjoy all the same benefits with a short-term rental as a long-term rental, but I don't think there's anything extra special about short-term rental.
And I see Nat has their hand raised. Guys.
Hi, I have 2 questions. So about the Heloc thing. So Cody, do I need to put out my money from the Heloc in order to get qualified for a loan? Or is it usually enough just to show them a statement of how much I have in my Heloc?
You don't have to pull out a home equity line of credit funds for down payment, but if you want to use those as reserves, they would have to be pulled and put into a bank account.
Do I need to have reserves?
Yes, more than likely. Yeah. Generally speaking, reserves vary depending on the number of properties you have, the loan size. There's a lot of different variables there. The minimum reserves usually would be about 2 months worth of PITI, and that would be on all properties that you own. So PITI is the full payment, right? Principal, interest, taxes, insurance, all the way up to as much as the need for maybe 12 months worth of PITI. So what I'd usually tell people is when they start to get into investing more and more in more and more properties, you're going to need more and more reserves, right? So I think it's smart to, if we're investors, right? So we're investing in real estate, but we also should be investing in other things too. So I would suggest putting some money into stock market, ETFs. Even if you've got it in a 401k, I can count that as reserves as well, as long as you can somewhat get at that. If you're using stock or 401k for reserves, you don't have to pull it out. You don't have to sell the investment. You just have to, we have to know how you could get to it if you needed to, and then we can count that as reserves.
So reserve doesn't mean to need it to have a liquid cash in my account.
Correct. Yeah, it can be invested in other things, just not illiquid investments like real estate. Okay.
That's great to know. And then my other question was, do you, I guess most of you don't self-manage, but if you self-manage, do you filter your guests in any way? And that kind of like add to my question of like instant booking, if you allow instant booking or you prefer a different way to filter your bookings.
Yeah, so I'll let Kazie answer that, and maybe I don't know if Liz is on here. She wants to pop in because she's been answering some of these questions too. Apparently, instant booking is if you have good reviews and you're not a dirtbag guest, you can instantly book without having to have a review, right? And get it booked and secure it. I mean, personally, I don't know. I don't do that. I think my property manager probably would allow for that if somebody's got 5 or 6 really good reviews. They've been a good guest. Kazie, do you screen your tenants? Like, do you talk to them first, or do you not care about that?
No, I don't screen them, but we do a 3-night minimum. So we're trying to avoid just somebody wanting like a local. I've heard that's been a problem in Arizona. Just a local family wants to throw a big party there. So we do a 3-night minimum so that they have to stay for a longer period of time. And then, I mean, our house, we've really tried to direct it towards families. Although we just had 11 adults leave, which I'm wondering who got the bunk beds, but but we just had 11 adults leave. But no, I don't. One of the things, like with Rob was saying with partying, we have quiet hours. I make it known in an email that goes out from myself, also from the management. Well, Evolve is not really a management, but from the booking company. And then one of the things that I was going to suggest for you, Rob, is we turned all of our lights on the outside to, I can control them from home. So 10 o'clock is quiet time. And if it needs to be addressed, I would just hit the button and turn the lights off on the outside. And then I would assume everybody would go in. But I made it very known in my welcome book that we do have residents that live next door to us that get up early and go to work. So just please be respectful. And thus far, everybody's been really respectful and easy. So I'm sure we'll get the group that will throw a party and make a mess of it, though. So
Great, thanks.
We had a question from Cecilia. She's wondering about the different booking seasonalities in your markets. Because I know that Rob's were in the Midwest, and then Cody's got his property in Washington, and Kazie's in Arizona. So how's the seasonality looking for you guys?
Well, I've had mine since March, and that over there, April is kind of between seasons, right? It's maybe still some snow on the ground. It's not super warm yet. But it's not snowy, so it's not really fun. So, we had a few retreats, like maybe some hikers and a few other things, but lighter bookings for sure. For us, the season is the summer season in Washington, right? So Memorial Day, basically through Labor Day, was like jam-packed, like super, super busy. And then after, September was still pretty good, like most of the weekends. Throughout the summer, it was like week-long bookings. And then after kids go back to school, it was maybe a weekend or a long weekend. And then October was dead, like it was empty. So we went over there, right? We went over there for a long weekend, and we went over there for a week and just worked from there. And it was enjoyable, right? I mean, the weather's decent, but it's still, it's cold. And then for us, November, like mid-November through through February is the winter season. So it's snowy, it's Christmas. Like we went over on Thanksgiving and decorated for the holidays. So it was all done up with Christmas lights and a tree and all that stuff. And yeah, it was jam packed, right? In December, I think we had like 4 open nights. So it was really, really booked. And then, I'm anticipating, I didn't own it last year, but I'm anticipating like March, April will start to tail off again. Phoenix or Scottsdale, I'm anticipating will probably be jam packed, busy, all except for the hottest month of the year. And then we'll probably get some suckers that don't realize how hot it is in Phoenix in July and August, and they might book it, right? Who knows? But like Kazie said, like you offset that. Like we're putting in a sport court, but we're putting in lights. And the reason why is because in July and August, you're not going to want to be on a sport court in the middle of the day. But at 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock at night, it'll cool down a little bit. And if the lights are there, you can still use that stuff outside. But then you fill up the inside with fun stuff too, like ping pong. Like my place in Ronald, the garage is not a garage; it's a game room, right? There's Pop-A-Shot, there's air hockey, there's foosball table, there's ping pong table, a pool table, a big screen TV with an Xbox, right? So like it's not a garage. Who needs a garage at a vacation rental, right? You go there to have fun. So the kids, kids are out there constantly. We know a lot of the adults really use that too. So we'll probably do something similar in Arizona with, some indoor games, things that can be done when it's too stinking hot outside.
Yeah.
And that helps the seasonality, right? Like you can kind of offset that a little bit.
Yeah, for us, the big season obviously is spring training. So February, March is ridiculous. 1 week in March is an $8,000 booking. It's absolutely ridiculous. So January, February, March are big. I'm just looking at what I did is I looked at Evolve's projected pricing. So it's looking like our slower months are going to be June, July, which obviously it's super hot. And then everything books and bumps up in pricing again, October, November, December. And just looking at February, for example, I don't think much is going on, but right now our February is going to be $11,350. And that's just 4 bookings over February. So I think it will slow down obviously in the hot months, but I'm pleasantly surprised with how the bookings are going so far with the January, February, March, and then the pricing thus far. I was going to throw this out here. If anybody is looking to invest in the Arizona area, Super Bowl is going to be in Arizona next, not this February, next February, 2023. And our pricing has already projected what Evolve is going to put as our booking price for the Super Bowl weekend. It's $1,950 a night.
Woo.
For Super Bowl. So maybe you guys can get something closer to Glendale and really pocket on that. But I thought that was interesting too. So,
well, I went to the Super Bowl when the Seahawks played the Patriots there, and there was zero anything anywhere. Like the only thing we could find was a place in Tucson where my buddy's parents lived, and it was like a 2-hour drive. So anything around that area on Super Bowl would be absolutely nuts. And Kazie, maybe you don't know, but the Waste Management golf tournament's in February too. So you're probably getting some.
That's probably it. I'm not a golfer.
Golf tournament.
Yeah. Well, there's all these tournaments and all these things that come up, and
Tennis
I wasn't even
golf tournaments, all kinds of stuff. Yeah.
Tennis tournaments are really big. So our being close to the Surprise Stadium, I think that's also where some tournaments are. Michelle, yes, I just saw your question. $1,950 a night. It's insane. So hopefully, Cody, we get that. We're about 25 minutes from Glendale. So nice. Anybody in Surprise there, you'd be good.
Rob, did you want to speak to your seasonality?
Yeah, I haven't really had mine up and going long enough to, figure out what the seasonality pattern is gonna be at mine. So, but the last 6 months have been pretty steady. So, since midsummer through December, there hasn't really been a whole lot of variation in what I've seen with the bookings.
So Kazie, I know you mentioned that you have an HOA for your property. What do you guys think of utilizing a condo versus a house for a short-term rental? And how do you make sure that the property would work? What criteria are you considering?
I didn't at all look at a condo. So I don't have any experience with what I would look at for a condo. I was really just looking for big family gatherings. And so that's how we went with a bigger house, which 2,500 square feet is not the hugest house, but the bedroom downstairs brought it up to the 5 bedrooms, which at this point it is still an office. It doesn't even have doors yet. We've got privacy curtains to close it currently, just using any space we can to make another bedroom. So as far as the HOA is concerned, I think Arizona is HOA happy. I don't think you're going to get away from HOA unless you're really far out and you buy on property. So I think it's just going to be appeasing the HOA. So what I also looked for is the HOA in our neighborhood. I guess it's a big deal to not park on the streets. And so the HOA will get after you if you choose to park your cars on the streets or leave your garbage cans out more than one day. And that was one of the first things I noticed is our neighborhood, there were cars all over the streets. So I figured, okay, maybe this is a more lax HOA and we can get away with some things. And then the main person that parks all the cars on the street is our neighbor. So I was like, perfect, this is the right neighbor to know. So that's all I really know about the HOA. And I hope I answered that question. I personally wouldn't look for a condo for an Airbnb, just because I wouldn't rent a condo. If I'm going to rent a condo, I'm going to rent a hotel is the way I look at it. But I don't know. Maybe condos are successful. I just haven't gone down that road.
So I've rented a condo as an Airbnb, and the primary reason I do it over hotels just because you have like a kitchen and a separate work area and bedrooms. But would I buy a condo as an Airbnb? I probably wouldn't. I think I'd be worried about HOA rules changing, and maybe if it made sense as a long-term rental as well. But I mean, and I guess any jurisdiction can change the rules regarding short-term rentals. So you're not like immune from this, even if you buy a house somewhere with the city or the county changing, how you can use that property. But I think there's definitely more of a risk with a condo in that regard.
Yeah. More of a risk of making the neighbors mad is what I would worry about.
Yeah, everyone's a lot closer together.
Yeah.
I believe it's Milwaukee where they're changing their regulations. We have a member who has a fourplex, but now they have to turn 3 of those units into furnished long-term rentals because they're changing their regulations. So that's one issue that he's having with his multi-unit property. Have you guys run into any complications in obtaining a formal authorization to run a short-term rental business?
My current property in Ronald is in like unincorporated anything, so there's nobody that's giving me any guff on that one. Scottsdale though is a little more concerning, and I know they're making some rule changes there, so I'm hoping to get in under the radar and be there. There's some areas where they've asked you to get like a permit, like over in Ronald, Roslyn specifically is moving towards like a bed and breakfast permit or something like that. If somebody needs a couple $100 a year permit for me to do it, it's not a big deal. But if they, take away the ability to do it completely, then that would be harmful for sure.
I wasn't required to get a permit. I just needed to get a TPT number. So that's all I did in Arizona. And that's a requirement from Evolve before they even will take you on as a client. So it took a couple of weeks to get a TPT number. And I wish I had done that sooner because that stalled. They take you on as a client. They help you, start onboarding you, but they will not set a time for your photos. So I was ready for photos and I ended up having to wait another week and a half to have that TPT number so that they would actually schedule for photos to come out. And Evolve pays for photos too. So that's another thing is they pay for a professional photographer to come out and shoot the property.
Yeah, definitely have noticed that pictures go a long way. So it's worth investing in. And I also saw that Sherry has been super active in the chat. So thank you for speaking up, Sherry. I didn't know if you wanted to come on and just give a little bit of your background and experience. Hey, Sherry.
Hi. Unmute. Are you trying to unmute me?
Sorry.
So I'm actually speaking right at this minute from Clarksville, Tennessee, where we got a little house under contract. So we don't yet own anything short-term rentals, but I have literally in the past 2 weeks done a ton of like local research because we were hoping for Atlanta or Marietta or maybe around here. But the particular properties, man, it's a tough market. We are doing our first 1031 and with this duplex outside of Orlando and this house in Clarksville, assuming nothing happens in inspections, but I did do a walkthrough this week. We'll check off our 1031, but finding properties that are not like top of the price point and then still need work and then really turn out to be a C neighborhood when you thought it was a B neighborhood. Anyway, so we've had to terminate a couple of properties, but my significant other and I, we're not ready to like buy an expensive house to just do single family. We were thinking, oh, if we want to buy a, 2 to 4 units, likely 2 to 3 if they're townhouse style. Try doing short-term rental or monthly furnished rental on just one. And so if it doesn't work, well, we'll have to figure out how to get rid of, offload and sell off the furniture. But at least, for us, we want it to cash flow as at 200 a door minimum, all in net if it was a regular long-term rental. So, but this is what I was posting was from a deep dive in recent Q&A with some local vendors in the Atlanta, and the Vacasa sales guy I talked to also does Nashville. But if you it doesn't cost you anything to talk to the a business development person. You can schedule some of them they'll do an evening phone call with you, and answer every question you want. They'll send you lots of links. Vacasa, I don't know if it's on their regular website, but after like an interview with them, they will they'll send you a bunch of links, including even if you're going to self-manage. Vacasa gives you this massive list of like pizza cutters, like every little item you could buy. And one thing that was interesting since COVID, they said, buy at least 2 sets of, like someone was saying, 2 sets of everything, not just to keep on the property, but because like here right now, I'm staying in one of these home 2 suites, and the little studio that has good desk. I recommend also has good full breakfast. With COVID, it's good to have even like the top layer of a duvet, 2 layer everything that can be fully washed in between customers. So that's the trend now. So like duvet covers, mattress covers, pillowcases, all that kind of stuff. So we're looking for full service. And so that's why Evolve really wouldn't work for us. But if you're willing to do more of the work for more of the income, absolutely, it's an option. So that's what I found. And who was I just talking to? One of the agents in Best Gals in Chattanooga says she knows some local people. She didn't send me a list there yet. But again, the inventory is so low. Like, be prepared to look in multiple markets all over. If you're on any kind of deadline or you're any kind of goals about buying a certain number this year, I'm self-employed, and right now I've been doing this round the clock, more than full time for weeks and weeks, just to now buy 1 duplex and 1 single family, because we're not in it just for the appreciation. We need the cash flow. So anyway, that's where we are.
It's good to always practice deal analysis so that once you do see the deal, you're able to act fast.
And I'm, if I wasn't already past the 10,000 hour mark, the Malcolm Gladwell, I'm now well past that. I'm pretty good at it. So, but I posted to some of the Agents Invest stuff, addicted to ROI internal chat on the website, and been a huge, we have high standards for agents and property managers, and have gotten some good intros in multiple markets that have really been a shortcut and helped us be brave enough to try some new markets. So very happy. And it's, and if anybody who's not already a member, it's a very modest fee. You can try it out for the first 3 months. It's worth 5 times that.
Thank you for the shout out, Sherry.
And if anybody has tried, compared it to these turnkey rental companies, you can browse the other sites to see what markets that they like and why, but you'll never get the cash flow. I mean, you might, but the places, but then again, unless you're like me and you can research around the clock, if you're just looking for tax benefits and appreciation, it might work. Anyway, try everything.
Thank you for sharing, Sherry. Speaking of cash flow, we are hitting that 1.5 hour mark. So I did want to give you a quick glimpse into some of the deals that we do have in the inner circle. So Addicted to ROI, we work with agents across the country who submit deals that are in appreciating markets or have high cash flow for investors to take a look at and get under contract. So we have the short-term rental opportunity in Hot Springs, Arkansas, and that's just outside the city limits, which means you won't have the difficult regulations to get around. And it also comes with a hot tub and above ground pool. So the asking price for this property is $480, and potential monthly income as a short-term rental is just under $13,000. I mean, who wouldn't want those numbers? Another one of the deals that we have going on is in Aurora, Illinois, and this is not currently running as a short-term rental, but it's still a great off-market opportunity. We have agents that are submitting both on-market and off-market properties. This has two buildings, one building with 3 units and a second building with 2 units. The asking price is $365 with potential after repair rents at just above $4,000, and that's a cash on cash return of almost 13%. And then the last deal I have to show you today is in Rossville, Georgia. So this is right near Tennessee, and this duplex is already currently fully rented and would bring in the potential rents of $1,700 and a cash on cash return of 13%. So if any of these deals seem tempting to you, we would love to have you within the inner circle. And that's part of addictedtoroi.com/inner circle. You can get access to these deals, more sessions like this where you can learn about different investment strategies, have access to one-on-one coaching with Jennifer Beatles and Dina Iverson, and also access to wonderful members like Rob, Cody, and Kazie and Sherry to ask any questions that you might have and network as well. We actually have our first investor trip coming up in Arizona next month, and while tickets are sold out, we are already planning our next trip in May. So be on the lookout for that information, and we would love to have you within the inner circle. If you are interested in connecting with Cody and learning more about loans and what products they might have that could suit your strategies, here is his contact information as well. It's Cody Touchette at caliberhomeloans.com. We really appreciate having you spend your Friday evening with us. And if you have any other questions, we'll be online just for a little bit longer.
The Phoenix area, right? So that has been the number one, like, for quite a while, or like top 5 for sure, but I believe it's one now. Then that said, there are specific areas there that you could focus on as well. So like Kazie's in Surprise, the extra draw there is the Mariners, right? So you got how long is spring training? Like 2 months?
Yeah.
6 to 8 weeks out of the year that you're going to have a ton of extra baseball fan traffic, especially from like our neck of the woods, Seattle, right? So you're going to have a lot of extra draw there. But in and around Phoenix, there's, 25 major league teams that do their spring training there. So you're going to have people that come from all around the country to go to those games. There's world-renowned golf tournaments, world-renowned tennis tournaments. Each one of those different little areas are going to be a little different focus, right? So if you go Mesa, you're probably going to be more in the hills, and maybe you've got people that are dirt bikers or side-by-side, Jeepers, that kind of thing.
Right.
People in Scottsdale, probably a little more trendy club or shopping, in the fashion district, that kind of thing. There's Gilbert, which is up and coming as well. They're real close to the ballparks as well. And it's like Scottsdale 10 years ago, probably, I think, right? It's really coming up. So, I would say if you haven't been, go down there, right? Go check it out, get some sunshine. It's been gray and rainy for a while. So go get some sunshine and boot around all those different neighborhoods and see, at different places, different price ranges too, right?
Right.
If you're in Scottsdale, like my place, it's $2.2 million for, what is one more bedroom than Kazie's place, which is you're 40 minutes away from me, something like that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't know if you mind sharing, but her place was dramatically less on the buy. Now she bought it a while ago and it's probably gone up 20% since she bought it, right? It's just the market down there. But you can definitely get into places down there for $500,000 or $600,000 that'll rent really well. Just a matter of what you want, right? Like, do you want, like my place is going to be an oasis, right? Where we have a sport court in the backyard, we have a pool, a hot tub, putting green, you know, all these different areas and all these different things that people can do. And it's walking distance to some of the best shopping around, right? So what do you want, right? What do you want and what's your budget? And then you can tailor that to the neighborhood that better fits your budget and your wishes.
Yeah, and we picked up ours. It listed for $475, had a bidding war, and we ended up paying $500,000 for it. So $500,000 for a 12-person home that also kind of has the oasis theme with it, with a pool, and we ended up with a fire pit and covered dining, and a hot tub's going to be going, and then all the inside stuff as well. We went with surprise area because it was more affordable. So it was an easier spot for us to buy into. And then it's also going to be for us, if we had to turn it into just a regular rental with the HOA coming after us, we'd still be able to pull like $3,000 a month for it. So we're still going to be making money on the mortgage. And then also being surprised, I'd recommend to people to join local Facebook groups in areas that you're considering. So I spent some time on like just the surprise Facebook group, and you hear questions. I'm trying to decide between Surprise and Peoria. What do you guys think? And people will say, what I found is Surprise is very family friendly and very kid friendly. So that to me was going to draw the right crowd that I wanted to rent the house versus a party family. So yeah, but my numbers are dramatically different than Cody's with, different purchase price, but I'm not going to have the luxury home that he's going to have.
Yeah. And, again, different draws, right? Mine's 10 minutes from the airport, where Surprise is probably 40 minutes from the airport,
40
right?
minutes from the airport.
Yeah. And, different renters are going to want different things, right? So some people are going to want to pay less and they don't mind driving a little more. Some are going to pay more and be closer to everything, be walkable or bikeable to the services. So, it really depends on, where your budget lands and what you're trying to do from that perspective. I kind of bought it too. Like, I'm going to have somebody else pay for my retirement home, right? Like, this is a house that I could probably spend 3, 4, 5 months out of the year down the road. And I'm not ready to do that yet. I like serving all you guys, so I'm not done working. But, in 5 or 10 or whenever I'm, however many years I'm done, somebody else is going to prepay 10 years worth of my mortgage. And then I'll step into that house and maybe the mortgage will be gone if we keep cranking away short-term rental style. So we'll see.
Right. Yeah. Sorry.
Oh, no, that was it. No, go ahead. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off.
I had 2 other friends also that I mentioned are in the Surprise area and one of them has been running a short-term rental there for about 1.5 years. And her numbers are roughly around $8,000 a month. So I was using that number to kind of go by, and that's $8,000 before mortgage and cleaning fees and utilities and everything else. So our all-in monthly number is around $3,400 to run everything. So if I'm going to hopefully hit 8,000 as well, that's fantastic. So yeah, different styles.
Awesome. And then I do see Joey here has his hand raised. Welcome.
Yeah, thanks. Just a quick question. What do you guys think of new construction purchase for short-term rentals in some of these hotter markets? I mean, specifically Phoenix, Arizona, Scottsdale, like Surprise, all that.
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely do that, especially if you could secure something before they've broken ground. Like, that was in the last couple of years, that's probably been one of my best investments, was a duplex in Idaho that they allowed us to secure. I mean, a few people on this call bought 1 or 2. They allowed us to secure pricing before they'd broken ground. 9 months later, 10 months later, these things have gone up 20, 25% or more. Rents increased probably 20% over what we thought we were going to get from the beginning. And I mean, speaking for mine was rented completely in the first weekend that we put any ads out. So if you can get into something and set the price before it's done, absolutely. If not, then you're probably paying retail, which, you know, I mean, that's not a bad thing either. But I love new, I love new construction because generally speaking, you got 10 years without maintenance, right? With short-term rental though, you're going to expect a little bit more beatings, right? You're going to have maintenance in the sense of, you know, they're going to break a chair, they're going to break plates, they're going to break, you know, stained sheets or whatever. But, you know, your hot water tank should last, your furnace should last, your, you know, all the mechanical systems of the house should last quite a long time. So yeah, I mean, I think it's great. Just the trouble is finding it, right? Like it's, you're not the only one seeking new construction, right? Like that's a, you know, pretty heavy competitive market too. So.
And then I would add to that, you're going to end up, maybe it becomes landscaped, but that landscaping bill and the mature trees, I like the idea of a brand new house, but I like the idea of an older yard, because the shaded trees and the palm trees that are existing and the cactus that are there, I think is a huge draw, and you're not going to get mature trees for very cheap. So that's one thing I'd consider.
Thank you.
Do we have anyone else with a final question for our panel tonight?
Hi, I have one question. Cody, you mentioned you went with a $2 million home, right? So in purchasing, so I see some benefits to purchasing an expensive home in terms of, you know, just like buying bigger apartments instead of fourplex, right? It's probably it's in the same way. It's like instead of buying smaller homes, you know, just buy a more expensive home, which would you know, generate more money, right? In the sense. And also it's like less hassle. Instead of managing 5 properties, you're just managing 1 property, right? My question is in terms of financing, right? Like obviously if you're buying such expensive home, then do we have to qualify? Can we qualify on STR income for such properties, right? Without getting a hit on our personal credit, right, as a DTI, and also as a general investment strategy for scaling up on STRs. Do you think going the expensive route is better, or just kind of, you know, just start off with, or just doing like multiple of these 500K homes?
Yeah, I mean, I think you know, if your budget allows, I think it's great. You know, for me, it's like you mentioned, it's the you know, all the money under one roof, right? And I could have bought 4 different houses that were all $500,000, and then I'd have, you know, 4 different houses to maintain and 4 different roofs to maintain and all those different things. Or I could buy one place. And for me too, this was like, where do I want to bring clients? Where do I want to bring, you know, people to? Where do I want to spend my time in 10 or 15 years when I'm retired, right? So this was thinking ahead. And that was just what was a good fit for me. I personally like that area and I wanted to be close to it. I didn't want to have to drive 30 minutes back home from the restaurant or the bar that I wanted to go to, right? So from a purely economic standpoint, you probably could do better on 3 or 4 or 500,000 houses, honestly, if you wanted to maintain it and manage it, and that was the place that you wanted to go to. I think that I will do well. Like the forecast for my revenue is $300,000 on like the AirDNA numbers. So, I mean, that's big dollars, but you know, if Kazie's bringing in 8 or 9 grand a month and she could buy 4 for what I paid for this one, well, then, you know, it's kind of the same, right? Or maybe it's even better, but it will be a little more labor intensive to manage 4 times as many guests, right? So for me, I thought that, and I could be totally wrong, right? But like buying a more luxury house that's going to come with a luxury price point, hopefully the people will take a little better care of it. We won't have as much damage and hassle, but I don't know, right? I mean, that it remains to be seen. I do have a couple of clients that have done this sort of thing, and it's worked out really well for them so far. You mentioned financing. I'm buying this as a rental property because I'm doing a 1031 exchange. So it's not a second home for me, but it wasn't a concern with down payment, right? I had a big chunk of money coming from a sale of a property. So I'm buying this as an investment property, but I do have to understand that going forward, I'm doing a short-term rental. So for the next year, I'm going to have a big mortgage payment with no verifiable rent to offset it. So it's going to affect my DTI for the next 12 months until I file my taxes for 2022. And then it still might affect my income because I don't take possession until March 7th. And then it's going to be March 15th or 16th before I get any bookings and guests and pictures. So, I'm really only going to have it for probably 9 months out of the year. So, we'll see what kind of revenue it brings in. And I want to use it, right? So I want to go down there and visit it. So that'll harm my rental income as well. So, it may not make the most financial sense, but it's for me, it's turning something I want into a possible revenue stream, right? It's a vacation place in the desert that I wanted to have for a long time, and now I own it, or I will own it, and I get to go use it whenever I want. But when I'm not there, it's bringing in some revenue. If you're going to buy it strictly for like making money, I'd probably buy 4 cabins.
Got it. Yeah, got it. Thanks, Cody. Very helpful. So one question further on the financing part of things. So if you buy the STR and for the first year for qualifying, if you're buying it as an investment property, do the banks use 75% of the monthly long-term rents to give you credits for the first year?
Yes.
God.
Only on the purchase, right? So if you're going to do a BRRRR, then that doesn't relay, right? Because if you do a BRRRR, now you're refinancing, and if you don't have a lease in hand, then you're going to get hit for the whole payment. But on the purchase side, yes, we can use 75% of the market rent survey from the appraisal for what a long-term rent would be.
Got it. So basically, if you're trying to buy a different property, and when the bank is evaluating the complete DTI for you, so for this property, this STR property, would they give credit for the long-term rental even though it's being used as a STR?
You mean for like a second purchase after you bought the first one, you're trying to buy another one?
Yeah, let's say we're buying a rental property right, and they're calculating the DTI.
You would not get the long-term rental income for the existing short-term rental a month or 2 or 3 after you bought it. You only get to count that rent on the purchase. So yeah, if you wanted to buy 2 short-term rentals in relatively rapid succession, the second purchase, you'd have to qualify for the entire payment on the first one. And then you could count the 75% of the rent on the second one, but you may not get there if your debt to income ratio is not there. So as an alternative, if you did that and you wanted to buy 2 or 3 and you didn't qualify, if you qualify, it's not a big deal, right? If you have enough income to offset the payment, that's great. But if you don't qualify or wouldn't otherwise qualify, then we could use the debt service coverage ratio program where your personal debt to income ratio doesn't really matter. And they would just look at the long-term rental income. And then the DSCR doesn't have a vacancy factor. They use top line number on the market rent survey. So if the market rent survey is $2,500 and you have a 1-to-1 debt service coverage ratio, then your payment could be $2,500, which normally we wouldn't do that as long-term rental investors. You wouldn't buy something that has a $2,500 payment that rents for $2,500 because that's a loser. But if you're buying it as a short-term rental and it says $2,500 on the market rent survey, you're going to bring in $8,000. Cool, right? I can still get it done as a long-term rental, but then you can short-term rental it afterwards. The caveat on those programs, generally speaking, to get decent pricing, you're facing a 2-year prepay and probably 1 to 2 points in upfront costs. And then you're getting a rate that's in the low 4s, right? So still a pretty good deal. If you don't qualify for that and you need the short-term rental income, then Rob got a loan that's like that where they'll count AirDNA dollars, or maybe didn't. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but there are loans out there that will use AirDNA figures, but they're going to have 5 or 6% rate, couple of points, 5-year prepay. You're locked in for quite a while.
Got it. Okay. So, and in terms of using the tax return, so let's say we own the property for a year and we've got all the net income in the Schedule A, right? So, and we go to refinance this property, will the lenders use the income on the tax returns directly, or do they consider it's a short-term rental and they don't use it?
No, they use the number right off the tax return.
Got it. Okay, sounds good. Thank you, Cody.
Yep.
Thank you again to Rob, Cody, and Kazie, and everyone else for spending your Friday evening with us. I definitely learned a lot about short-term rentals, and I'm really excited to learn more during our investor trip next month. If you have any questions about the inner circle, feel free to reach out to us, hello@addictedtoroi.com. And I hope everyone has a great weekend. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, everybody. Take care.
Thanks, everybody.